This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of the Motor City Sports Rant. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Jason Jarvie will call in briefly. Oh, man, we got a good episode 184. So pot up. We're going to talk about Michigan State. Michigan this week. February 24th, finally, the matchup is going to go down. Everybody's expecting a great contest, but something has happened that will damper everybody's mood. Nick Ward, a prominent player for Michigan State, unfortunately got hurt. Sunday versus Ohio State. Seems like all the time when Michigan State is on the verge of great things, something happens that is going to be a challenge. And like I've seen on Twitter, no excuses. A lot of people are going to be excited for that contest, but in terms of Michigan fans, they're like, great. They're ready to pounce on Michigan State. They're ready to say, you know what? No excuses. Look, Michigan State has, in football, has had to play Michigan when they've had some injuries, and when, Michigan State was victorious. There's no excuses in sports. So Michigan State is going to go into Chrysler, and they got to handle their business. So I want to get a sense with Jason how he feels going into that matchup. We got to talk about the Detroit Lions. Holy cow, man. The mock drafts have started, and sometimes I wonder, in regards to these mock drafts, if information is actually being exchanged from general managers to these reporters. When you look at it, sometimes you wonder, are these general managers just trying to put out information as a way to send out smoke screens? Because how can the Detroit Lions be honestly tapped at number 8 to draft a tight end? I want to get a sense with Jason. Does he believe realistically that that's the case? Because I can't honestly believe that the Detroit Lions would draft a tight end at number 8. So we'll see what Jason thinks. I'm going to get Jason on the line. I can't wait to talk to him about these topics and other things as well. And as promised, Jason Jarvie joins me. You can follow him on Twitter at Jarvie the King. What's up, brother?
Oh, just living my life to the fullest, and on my way home to see the little man.
Before we start talking about Michigan State, Michigan, and the Detroit Lions, has the weather affected you at all? I mean, I got 2 young ones, and they've had 7 days off. I'm thankful my wife works from home, and I have the ability to make kind of my own schedule so I can move people. Like, for example, if there's bad weather on a Monday, I can move everybody from Monday, like I told you, to like one on Tuesday, a couple on Wednesday, sprinkle it in some open time slots. So I'm kind of lucky in that it hasn't affected me too much, other than maybe a couple minutes extended on my drives. But holy cow, man, there are some couples that I work with where they got to scramble to decide who's going to take time off when these kids don't have school, man. It's caused havoc for a lot of people. I'm just thankful it hasn't caused too much trouble for me.
Yeah, it's definitely been it hasn't affected us too much. My wife, she is a teacher, so the days that they've had snow days, my wife's been off. So, but otherwise, my shoveling situation, the only thing that I don't like is the constant going from freezing cold to like above freezing and then getting rain, because my sidewalk floods. And then when it gets so cold immediately, we have just a frozen lake on our sidewalk. So that's the only part that sucks. But other than that, I just want to stay cold until spring comes.
Has your work let you have any time off?
I mean, they're flexible, but I haven't needed it. I would try to save my time off so I can go on a nice vacation or something.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous because teachers get the time off. Some people I hear when they come in, they're like, oh, yeah, my company let me off a couple hours early. And I'm like, oh, man, no, it doesn't work like that for someone like me.
Yeah, and even my wife, when they had it was like 1 week where they had literally like the entire week off. Like, she was almost itching to get back to school at that point.
Oh, man. Well, I think I hear later on tonight or tomorrow there's going to be even some more weather situations, so we just got to get through a couple more weeks. And then I got to hear, too, my sister's on vacation. She went to Florida with her family, so I'm like, man, because a lot of the kids are on winter break, and I guess Disney's a place to go, get out of town. People with families try to get out of town. I'm like, man, I got to figure out a good vacation schedule with the kids and everything like that.
Yeah, it's you got to find time for the family. We got plans. We're actually gonna go to the Great Lakes Crossing. Gonna check out the new playscape. Let the kid run around and hopefully tire himself out.
All right, Jason, I was excited for this Sunday's contest. February 24th, it was a matchup between a couple top teams in the Big Ten. I was excited for it. I was excited to see if Michigan State legitimately had a chance to compete with Michigan, and all Michigan State had to do was, play a couple games and avoid big injuries, and unfortunately they weren't able to do it. Nick Ward, unfortunately, versus Ohio State, and he's already had surgery to try and correct it on his shooting hand, has fractured his left hand. And I'm like, oh, man. It basically, from those that are talking about it, it's going to take about 4 to 5 weeks, which is basically the entire length of the regular season. It's going to be unclear. Likely he's going to miss the first week of the NCAA tournament, but even when he does return, he's not going to be 100% healthy. So Michigan State goes into this contest versus Michigan on the road with a major injury, and I just don't think it's going to be a great thing for Michigan State. I see a loss, maybe an epic loss versus Michigan, and I'm kind of disappointed because Michigan fans don't care. They're like, bring it. We don't care. Injuries happen. You got to deal with it. But when you take a guy off your roster that scores 15 points and 7 rebounds and can cause some double teams and it can help out Cassius Winston, it just kind of takes the luster off. I'm expecting a bad loss this Sunday, and I'm disappointed because Michigan basically is going to have some success. They're probably going to be the Big Ten regular season champ and likely Big Ten tournament champ as well.
It was always going to be tough going into Michigan, and I just don't think this changes a whole lot. Michigan was going to be the team to beat to try and win to try and dethrone them to be the Big Ten regular season champs. So going into this matchup, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, but Nick Ward, he seems like he's hit or miss. He's when he's in on games, yeah, he's definitely a great player, but when he's out, he just seems like a non-factor at times. So I will be interested to see what the backups can do and what we can get from some other players and see maybe we can get somebody to step up. And, I'm not going to completely count them out, but it would be huge if Michigan State could somehow pull off an upset in Ann Arbor.
Now, guys like Adam are coming out with hot take theater. He thinks the loss of Nick Ward is going to drastically impact Michigan State. He's got them potentially losing in the opening weekend of the tournament, maybe even game 1. He thinks the loss is that devastating. And I'm like, come on, bro. They're likely going to be a 3 to 4 seed. That means they're going to get a cupcake likely in the first round. Maybe the ceiling equates to getting out of the first weekend, but I think Michigan State, if Cassius Winston can carry this team, if he can continue his offensive prowess, I don't think he's going to tire out. A lot of people are saying that, Cassius is looking like he's slowing down. Now he's going to be called upon to do more. He's going to wear out, and it's going to cause a big nightmare for Michigan State. I just think that as a result of the injury, the ceiling probably for Michigan State is the Sweet 16. Am I wrong? Is Adam crazy? Can Michigan State, is this going to derail their season? Can they potentially lose in the first weekend? The first round, second round of the tournament?
I think really anything is possible with this Michigan State team because we've seen it with better teams than Michigan State's had that, they were expected to go further. Where were they expected to go last year? They were supposed to make the Final Four last year, and they get ousted in the first weekend. So I think anything can really happen. I think they're definitely not going to go out the first game. I think, Tom Izzo, I give him enough credit to get them out of the game 1, but anything's possible after that because you just never know. March Madness is just as the name implies. It's madness. Anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. That's right, Jason. I like the idea, man. Wouldn't it be great if Michigan State could still go into Chrysler and get the W? Oh, man, that'd be some great trash talk. I would love for that to happen. Now, there is a scenario in which we can talk about Michigan State still kind of not dropping off too much. in that sense that you got to make up 15 points, okay? And it's basically going to be, hopefully, a couple points here and there, up to 5 from Cassius Winston. Xavier Tillman can give you 5 to 10 points. Maybe Kithier can come in and back up. You get extra contributions from the likes of McQuaid and Goins and Aarons, and you realize, you know what? It can be made up. The 15 points can be theoretically made up, and then you can also help out on the defensive side by not giving up as many points, tightening up on defense. If you just give up 3 to 4 less points per game on the defensive side, then you're talking about a scenario in which you have a chance not to let this loss be devastating. But I just think that Michigan State's hopes of winning the Big Ten are probably dashed. But I do think they can still win a couple games in the NCAA. Then Nick Ward comes back, and then you know what? Maybe he contributes, 8 to 10 points, and you still have an opportunity for a lucky factor in that Sweet 16 matchup. So I'm not definitely ruling out good things happening for Michigan State. I just think that it's going to be a very, very uphill battle to climb for the Spartans.
Yeah, and it's really all going to depend on their defense because, as we've seen time and time again, that this team can go super cold shooting, and it's going to really depend on if they can shut down teams. I mean, that's what we saw with Ohio State. They got down early in the first half, and they basically just shut down Ohio State and took over that game. So if you can get some of those games, that's going to be the key against Michigan, is if it's going to be a defensive battle because Michigan's a really defensive team as well. So who's gonna give up? I think it's the first of 60 wins, really.
You think so? That'll be the key for this Sunday?
That would be the key for me because I think it's going to be a low-scoring matter. It's going to be who can create less turnovers and who's more down on the defensive side of the ball.
And I do think that too. You know what? Adam thinks that Cassius Winston's going to slow down. There's a chance maybe this, causes his game to elevate. Maybe he recognizes he's the guy that the offense has got to go through him. Maybe he even can step up his game as well as McQuaid. And you sometimes can't rule out those that can step their game up. I do think that, obviously fans will think naturally that the Spartans are going to fall way off. But maybe with the expectations, next man up, maybe a guy like Tillman and, Kithier can come in and actually do some things and maybe even be better than Nick Ward. There's still that chance.
And I do think the key, though, is Cassius Winston. And if somehow we're able to pick ourselves up and compete in the Big Ten tournament, maybe even win the Big Ten tournament, Cassius Winston is going to elevate them into the likes of, Draymond Green, the Mateen Cleaves, those players who they just get better as time goes on, and they become Mr. Clutch. They're the guys that you depend on at the end of the season. And if that happens, Cassius Winston, he'll become a Spartan legend. Not sure what he'll do in the NBA, but, in Spartan minds, he can always get a free drink in East Lansing.
Oh, that'd be so awesome, man, if they still could go in there and handle their business. Now, if they can hold steady in the first 5 or 10 minutes, make it a close contest, there is a chance. And I do think it would be amazing, an amazing opportunity to go in there. And it's going to call upon all the resources that Tom Izzo has to go in there and try and outmaneuver and maybe out-tough the Michigan Wolverines. Do you see them getting a little bit chippy? Do you see them maybe trying to force Teskey off of his game, maybe kind of getting a little bit rough via the bad boys like the old Piston era where you realize, okay, we're not as talented as Michigan. Let's kind of muck it up a little bit and let's make this a very slow game and get it to, last couple minutes and see what happens.
I just don't see that happening. I feel like Tom Izzo, he's set in his ways and he does things the way that he wants to do it. It would probably be a smart thing to do, to go in there and know what your opponent's weakness is. But I think Michigan State's going to go in there. They're going to play hard defense. They're going to try to play transition ball, and they're just going to try and stick it out. And it's tough going up against probably the better coach with Michigan and Beeline.
All right, bottom line, who wins the game this Sunday?
Michigan's going to win. I want to say Spartans are going to win, but it's just too many things are weighing in Michigan's favor. At the end of the season when they're at East Lansing, talk to me then, and I think Michigan State will probably have the edge there. But I just think in Ann Arbor, it's going to be too much, and maybe it is. Maybe this will actually be a spark that, you get beat by Michigan, and it'll be that run towards the end of the season going into the Big Ten tournament and the March Madness that gives them that spark to, propel them further.
Now, before we talk about the Detroit Lions and the news regarding Mel Kiper's mock draft and, the news that's upsetting a lot of people, I want to get your sense. This Sunday is the Oscars. You've had a chance to see Black Panther, and you've reviewed it here on the podcast. You can follow Jason on Twitter at Jarvie the King. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Do you think an outside chance, because it would be probably a stunner, do you think Black Panther takes away the Oscar for Best Picture for 2018?
No, it is zero chance. It's a good movie, but it's just I don't see those kinds of movies breaking in and stealing a Best Picture or a Best Picture. It's I think Lord of the Rings was special when Return of the King won Best Picture because it was such an epic trilogy. But I think Black Panther, even though it was such a phenomenon and it made a ton of money, and it is a really good movie, I just don't see it winning Best Picture.
Yeah,
it definitely deserves the nomination, though.
Yeah, exactly. I see movies kind of like Roma, A Star is Born, kind of those kind of movies taking it down. But we live in an era now where this type of thing, I think it was a surprise maybe to some that Black Panther was even nominated. So it'll be interesting to see if they do take it down and if more of these type of movies can, crack into the nominations and maybe even win one.
It's going to take a really good story for it to really to actually win Best Picture. We have Avengers Endgame coming up, and seemingly the conclusion to this chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the beginning of the next one. I just don't see Endgame being that level where it's going to be Best Picture. It's going to be an epic, awesome movie, and that's not going to damper any of my expectations there. But Best Picture, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. I just wanted to get your sense of it. Has it already come out free in theaters? I think I read in the paper that it's going to be released on a limited basis where you can go still see Black Panther for free, I think at AMC. Did you see that?
I have seen that, and I might take advantage of it, but you gotta fit it in the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. I think I do as well because I have not seen the movie as of yet, but if it gets nominated for Best Picture, maybe I'll check it out. Real quick, on Netflix, Jason, there are a couple real freaky movies out there that kind of talk about how weird some people are. I definitely, on Netflix, if you have a chance, watch The Fire Festival and watch Abducted in Plain Sight. Have you seen any of those two?
I have heard about both, and I have not seen either.
Okay, I assume that you have Netflix. And
I do.
Okay.
Which Black Panther is on, by the way.
Oh, is it on? Okay, it's on Netflix?
Yes.
All right, I'll definitely maybe check it out. But I need you to watch probably first Abducted in Plain Sight. The first 30 minutes, you're going to be like, what? It's unreal. And the Fire Festival is just crazy because of the hype and the power of social media. So watch those two next. Fire Festival on Netflix and Abducted in Plain Sight. I think they're both in trending and they're really popular and they provide the biggest what the F moments in 2019. When you watch these movies, you're like, huh? And you'll be amazed. So we'll get a chance to talk about them in the coming weeks when we review some stuff on Netflix. But Abducted in Plain Sight and the Fire Festival. Doc recommends them highly, highly. I want to thank our sponsor of this podcast, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise. With 4 locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. So for all information regarding the Motor City Pawnbrokers, check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. Jason, have you had a chance to read Mel Kiper's recent mock draft where he has, and he said it, he makes the case for it. He makes the case that the Lions would be served and would be positive if they went out and drafted with the 8th pick, Iowa's T.J. Hawkinson, a tight end. And I read that and I said, oh my goodness, why would he mock that? I could see potentially the Lions going out and drafting a tight end, but in recent memory, no quality NFL team drafts a tight end that high, and it would be one of the highest draft picks for a tight end since Vernon Davis. I mean, the Lions previously did it and drafted Eric Ebron number 10 and pissed everybody off. I just don't see the Detroit Lions making this move because I don't think the public will receive it well. I think you can get better value there. And I do understand his strengths, but I kind of, in terms of the hype, I don't see TJ Hawkinson, especially when you look at his stats from Iowa, I don't see him being the next Gronk, so I don't see him being worth the 8th pick. If you want him and you want him in the first round, you almost have to trade back and take him. I just find this mock draft to be maybe attention-seeking, and I think that a guy like Mel Kiper will maybe lob a call to the Lions, and a guy like Bob Quinn will send this message out as a smokescreen or as a way to, modify the narrative a little bit because there's no realistic opportunity, I think, that the Lions would make this move.
I think if this were the actual pick and what the Lions did, this would be a surefire way to just torpedo your careers because we are fresh off Eric Ebron. And you're jumping right in with an even higher pick at number 8 to take another tight end who we're unsure of. It would be one thing if you knew this guy was going to be the next Rob Gronkowski or going to be the next Travis Kelce, but we have zero idea.
Even Travis Kelce wasn't drafted 8th.
So it's just it's all speculation, and that's what you have to take all these mock drafts with is a grain of salt because I think you're gonna see different guys tied to different teams each and every time outside of maybe the top 3 picks until we get to the combine and we get all those numbers and see all the flashy stats of what we're gonna get. I think it's gonna be a big question mark. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in a mock draft by Kiper or McShay, that they're gonna predict that the Oklahoma wide receiver Marquise Brown, who's got a Liz Frank injury now, that we take him there because we need a super fast wide receiver.
Yeah, from the Free Press, here's what was written from Mel Kiper. He says, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to skyrocket, Mel Kiper said in a teleconference Tuesday. You just can't look at him as a one-dimensional player. He's a multi-dimensional tight end. He can do everything you want, and he'd be a great asset for Matthew Stafford to have in that offense.
Garbage.
Yeah. I just look at that and I go, man, I don't see – maybe he goes in the first round, but maybe in picks 18 through 32.
I want to respect Mel Kiper's opinion because I feel like he's a smart guy, but this is just, it's such a dumb take. Anybody with any sense about the Detroit Lions have to realize that taking a tight end at number 8 is just the worst decision ever. I don't get it.
It's unbelievable. And I think it does generate debate. It generates some clicks and things like that. But in terms of mock drafts, I know that people read Mayock's, they read Mel Kiper, they read a bunch of other ones. Are there mock drafts that you find to be really reliable and you respect when they put out information? Because even the likes of Mel Kiper have been totally off. I mean, their percentage of being accurate is like less than 40%.
Well, the thing is Kiper puts out how many? He's going to put out another like 5 or 6 of these mock drafts before the draft even comes out. And I guarantee, in almost all of them, he's going to have Detroit taking a different player each time.
See, Jason,
he really locks in on this tight end.
That was supposed to be a layup. The best mock drafts are the ones that are done by Jason Jarvie on DetroitSportsPodcast.com. When he releases them, he's definitely in the range of being close to accurate, and I think is even better than Mel Kiper.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly what you said.
Are you working on Jason Jarvie's mock draft version 1?
Oh, yeah. I'm hard at work. Working on it right now.
Well, we can do a little bit live here on the podcast. I think you're probably thinking the likes of a defender, someone from Clemson. There's the likes of Ed Oliver, Cleveland Farrell, others like that, right?
Yeah, the 2 names that stick out to me are the Cleveland Farrell from Clemson and Greedy Williams. Those are the 2 guys. If they were there, if they were to pass on either of those guys, it would blow my mind.
Now, I think the reason why people are entertaining this is that the Lions have done it in the past. But if they were to take them, many people would be upset. but would you think that, you know what, they would have to view him as the next Gronk? They would have to kind of sell it that way and try to give Matt Stafford the best security blanket? That would be probably some of the best reasoning to try and do this.
No, there's no way you sell this. There's no way drafting a tight end at number 8, there's no way you pitch this to us that we'll actually believe you. You get any defensive player, and I believe you that you know what you're doing. But you go out, you draft a tight end number 8, I just red flags, and I'm immediately thinking that the ship is going down.
Really?
Yes, because there's no indication that this guy's Gronk. He's going to be a rookie tight end. Rookie tight ends, they hardly ever produce. So it'll be a horrible move.
Do you see any opening now that it's official that Antonio Brown has divorced the Pittsburgh Steelers? Earlier on Tuesday, he met with the owner, exchanged the pleasantries, but it's been decided, and it's in his best interest to be traded. And I know he's, on the north side of 30, but he's been highly productive the last few seasons. What would make you more mad, drafting a tight end in the first round or an offensive player, or going out and trading maybe a second rounder or third rounder for Antonio Brown?
The tight end would probably make me more mad, but because I think the second or third round for Antonio Brown, because the whole Antonio Brown thing it seems like a mess to me, because there's a possibility, even if they do get the trade done, that Antonio Brown doesn't even play for the team that they trade him to, because he's come out and said that he wants all guaranteed money. So who's going to guarantee him, $15 million a year, for all kinds of purposes? He is one of the greatest receivers of all time, but he's north of 30. How long is he going to be able to do that? So, but I wouldn't be upset giving up a second or third round, especially because Pittsburgh's essentially going to be eating the majority of this year's salary. But if it were to be giving up a first-round player for Antonio Brown, then I might have more of a problem there.
I wouldn't, like I said, I'm not in favor of drafting a tight end. Don't get me wrong. I think it would probably be a terrible decision, but I can understand it. Because, look, just because you have a need doesn't necessarily mean that you have to draft it in the first round. The expectation is that the general manager is doing work, that they can find contributing players in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, and you have an opportunity to get guys that can contribute. And like I said, there's still an option for the Detroit Lions to trade back if there's a team that maybe wants, Kyler Murray. So there's an opportunity if you want to trade back and get it. Would you be as angry if they trade back to, let's say, 22, 23, and then they take the tight end at that spot?
If that's what they want to do, if they do pick up more assets, then I'd be a little bit more comfortable with that, because I think you're basically putting all your hopes and dreams and you're spending your lottery ticket on a tight end at number 8. If you pick up, if you can even get another number 1, or hopefully you'd get at least another number 2 for this pick, and then go back into the first round, get that tight end, I'd be okay with it at that point, because tight end is a need, and if this guy is as good as people are saying, I feel more comfortable in the later part of the first round.
Yeah, I can't wait, Jason, as the mock drafts keep coming. In the end, though, I do think Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, I don't see them working together and coming up with an offensive player in the first draft. I just think that it's a good opportunity for the Detroit Lions to get better in this first round by going with defense, especially with Glover Quinn getting let go. I do think that there's a lot of needs on defense that can be addressed.
Absolutely, cornerback, defensive line, really any of the positions. We could use the middle linebacker. We could use another starting cornerback opposite of Darius Slay, and that's why I like Greedy Williams, because I love having those lockdown corners. And if we could actually get somebody to be opposite of Darius Slay, because Nevin Lawson is just a penalty machine. That helps everything. If the defensive backs are doing their job, it gives the defensive line more time to get to the quarterback.
I've enjoyed this conversation with Jason Jarvie. You can follow him on Twitter at Jarvie the King. If you agree or disagree with anything that you've heard, feel free to message the network at Detroit Podcast. I appreciate your time, sir. I look forward to recording next time.
Indeed.
Talk soon, everybody. You can find all podcasts and all news related to the network at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We'll see everybody next week.
Peace.
Okay, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.